I had the dream as a kid, a teenager, to grow up and play Test cricket for Australia. Is it what you thought it would be?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's bloody awesome. Jasper Brummer, got me out twice in the first test. I don't get to, 6 months or 3 months to prepare for him. It's, he's coming again in next week. Being an opening batter, set up the game for the team to win my country a game.
G'day legends and welcome back to the Cricket Mentoring Podcast. I'm really excited to have Test cricketer Nathan McSweeney joining us from Brisbane, 3 days out from the Test match, the third Border Gavaskar Trophy. Buddha, Nathan McSweeney, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Scholes. Thanks for having me, mate.
Mate, what a few weeks, months it's been for you. My first question, I guess, is you are now a Test cricketer. You're an international cricketer. How's it all been? And is it what, I suppose, I had the dream as a kid, a teenager, to grow up and play Test cricket for Australia. Is it what you thought it would be?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's bloody awesome, and it is challenging at times, no doubt. But it's right where you want to be, and I'm very lucky to be in the position I am. And as much as it is all a dream come true, it quickly changes to now you've got a job at hand, and it got to make sure I can set up being an opening batter, set up the game for the team to win my country a game.
Yeah, it's amazing. I remember I'm very close friends with Sam Robson, and I flew over for his Test debut in 2014 at Lords, and then speaking to him those sort of few days during the Test match, he was like, "It's just weird. It's like," and coming from county cricket where there's not many spectators, he's like, "It's just the difference is the cricket's the same, but there's a big party going on around you." How have you found that as an adjustment?
Yeah, it's definitely different. I guess it's just like playing a big bash game for 5 days in a row. There's so much on every ball, and the commentators are there, and everything's in slow mo. So yeah, there's definitely a fair bit of change, and something that I'm still getting used to, no doubt. And but I guess it's right where you want to be, and it's I used to go watching, the first day of every Test summer at the Gabba when it used to be in Brisbane, and they're the memories I have, and to be able to do it, it's a dream come true for sure.
And so going from first class cricket to Test cricket, obviously we just said the game doesn't change. It's still bat versus ball. But every time you go up a level, generally the questions are asked more consistently for more often, that like it's the best of the best. How have you found the jump, and what's been the biggest difference between batting in first class cricket to Test cricket?
Yeah, I think it's just probably, no doubt the bowlers are, they're very consistent. They're unique. We don't see them, as often. They're obviously world-class bowlers, and the main thing for me is you're playing them 5 times in a row in this case, in this series. In a shield season, you might play them, once before Christmas, once after. You get a bit of a breather to, work out a new plan or strategy, and be ready for the next time they come. Whereas, you know, Jasper Brummer, got me out twice in the first test, and I don't get to 6 months or 3 months to prepare for him. It's he's coming again in next week. So how can you get your mind ready, and how can you quickly make up plans within the week to combat what you got to come up against? So that's a big change for me, and I guess just a lot of talk on the results. In Shield cricket, we don't get heaps of coverage over the media, and you miss out once or twice, and it's not such a big thing. And we all know the game that play it. As a batter, you often miss out more than you score runs. But when you miss out in front of everyone and on national TV, it becomes slightly different. So it's just trying to keep the same mental routines and preparation, and talking to the guys that have helped you get to where you are to really instill that confidence. And it is just, as you said, it's a ball coming down, and it's the same game.
So there's a few questions I want to ask out of all of that. What did you do? So firstly, how did you adjust? Like, how did you mentally cope with getting a duck in that second innings in Perth, 10 days between Test matches, and the media and the question marks? Oh, is McSweeney going to be good enough? Whatever. Like, how did you deal with those probably self-doubts, but also hearing whispers or conversations elsewhere, reading them? How did you deal with that sort of issue, I guess, with the heightened scrutiny?
Yeah, it's not easy for sure, and I think for me, I've been able to really trust my game over the last couple of years, and definitely lean on guys that have watched me bat a lot. And I have those. Everyone talks about having some mentors or two or three guys that you really trust and can be a bit vulnerable to and ask them what they actually think. And so make sure I spoke to my batting coach in South Australia, who's one of those guys. I try not to read too many articles. I think the media are great and they grow our game. But for me personally, I don't want to see anything that I don't think will help me prepare. So just go back to trusting the guys that have helped me out along the journey and who I trust, and then just really going back to what works for me, and that is nailing my preparation. So when I go out to bat, I can almost let go and be really clear because I know I've done the work. And then just talking to the other guys in the team that have experienced it, leaning on guys like Paddy Cummins, Marnus, Steve Smith, talking to them about, do you read articles, do you not? Talking to them about, they faced obviously the bowlers a lot more than I have. So just trying to pick up a few things that here and there.
It must be hard though. Like you open Instagram and Seven Cricket and Fox Cricket and everything else is an opinion on. So are you just sort of unfollowing all the channels, or how do you do it?
Yeah, I don't. No, I still obviously follow all the channels, but I guess I'm not looking for it. If I come across it, accept it. At the end of the day, as you said, they've got to be there, and you don't want to try and avoid them at all costs because it might be a bit hard to live your life that way, the way we live our lives now. So just accept that there's got to be stuff out there, but I know what works for me. And I know what I need to be in headspace wise walking out the bat to make runs. So accepting all those thoughts, and they will come and go, but I have a really strong routine at the moment that I can lean on, and hopefully holds me in good stead.
Cool. Now I want to hear more about that routine shortly, but going back to the 10 days between tests, Boomer got you out twice. What did it actually look like those 10 days? I read an article about Marnus doing some technical changes, doing some stuff in his setup and whatever. What did you do in those 10 days? Is it sitting down watching footage? Are you trying to get more reads on cues with Boomer? Are you working on your own technique? Are you forgetting about it and just trusting that everything will be okay? Speaking of Smith and Marnus, what are you actually doing between test one and test two so that you can play him better?
Yeah, I think firstly, I look back on my dismissals, and I do that every time I get out. My first kind of review, my personal review is, was I clear? Did I react well? And often that's not always the case, and then I don't look any further. But I actually felt in Perth I was pretty calm, and I felt like I was reacting well, and then I moved on from that, and I felt like I haven't done much wrong technically, so I try to just move on from those dismissals pretty quickly. But then it's about navigating, can I just slightly tinker my alignment because he comes so wide in the crease and he's got a bit of unique action? Can I be a little bit more side on to him? And in Adelaide, I had some success batting out of my crease in Shield cricket to try and navigate the LBW. So, I was able to try and get that across my head within the first couple of days, and then from then on, it was preparing as usual, doing some drill work, and then in the nets, just trying to make sure I'm, making really good decisions. And I felt like I did that pretty well, and it was nice to get a little bit of reward by spending some time out there in that second test.
So what does drill work look like for any 14 or 16-year-old going, what does a test batter do? What's the test opener do? What does your drill work look like that you mentioned?
Yeah, everyone is slightly different. Like Marnus and Steve don't really hit many, overarms. They're mainly just working on stick, sidearm and facing bowlers. Whereas I like to, do some top hand drills. I feel like with my game, I am slightly open at release. So, working on my top hand stuff to get my shoulder into the ball is very important for me. So I'll make sure I do that at least, once in the lead in, and then the closer to the game gets, I get a little bit sharper with my training, and it's more about decision making and trying to really track the ball really well. So I always like to go back to what's worked for me, and there's definitely reasoning behind it.
And so top hand is underarms or overarms throws, and you're just trying to hit back in the V sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Depending on the thrower, if you've got a really good overarm thrower, I feel like, and it's not too fast, I find it best doing some overarm top hand stuff, and mainly it's about, I'm looking for engagement in my top half and being able to hit the ball through cover really well. that allows me to bat on off stump and be slightly open, which I like to be to make good decisions around my off stump. Um, the only, weak, I guess, negative to that is sometimes it can be hard to get your front foot and your shoulders to hit a cover drive. So I really try and exaggerate, getting side on and be able to hit my cover drive with my top hand, and also doing some underarm pulls to get some confidence in my pull shot. And I think that's a shot that you really need to. You at least need a good cut or a good pull in first class cricket and Test cricket to really put the bowler's length under pressure as well as line.
Yeah, cool. And so just delving a little deeper into your technique, you're talking about being open and batting on off stump. Do you have certain things that you focus on in your setup that you need to sort of tick, tick, tick that gets you ready and in the best position to face anything?
Yeah, definitely. Generally I like batting on off stump. Conditions in Australia in the last couple of years have been all very similar, and they've been quite seaming wickets, and to be able to spend time out there, I felt like you need to leave the ball really well. So batting on off helps me do that. And depending on where the bowler is coming on the crease, when I look at footage, I'm mainly looking at where the bowlers deliver on the crease, to just try and get my angles in my setup and my shoulders pointing in the right direction. So, generally the Indian bowlers come quite wide in the crease. So I am a little bit more side on than I usually would be. But again, that's an ongoing, that's probably as much as I tinker really with my game. Others tinker a lot more than I do. But, I feel like if I'm aligned really well and I make good decisions, then I feel like for me that's good enough to hopefully spend some time in the middle.
That's fascinating because young players don't, to the naked eye, see that you're lining up slightly more side on because they're wide on the crease. And that's the attention to detail you need at the highest level, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I've only probably learnt that from Marnus, who's spoken to me about it. The more, I guess, you can be happy to tinker and change, I think that's where you find the real growth. I think, obviously making good decisions is really important, and having a strong foundation. But, there's little, the bowlers are always trying to do little things to try and expose your technique. So if you can be happy to change on the run, as long as it doesn't interrupt, I guess, your decision making, I think it's very beneficial.
Yeah, awesome. Now, speaking about your routine, you said you've got a really good routine or process at the moment. You're 3 days out from the next test. What does it look like? Do you try and take a few days off? Obviously, it must be pretty mentally taxing. It hasn't gone 5 days, but sort of
Yeah.
pretty taxing Test cricket. And what does your routine build up look like leading into the Test matches?
Yeah, so we've had a couple of days off, and we got training, our first training today, so a couple of days out. And yeah, we've got an optional training today, a main training where we will face bowlers, and then on Friday, the day before, is just a top up where it's mainly just what the players need. So for me, it's a couple of days off. Then it's looking at the previous games I've played at the Gabba. I look back on previous notes and what I did well there in the conditions. So it's just trying to I'm batting. Weather's been pretty poor here, so I can't get used to the Gabba net. So I'll be batting in the indoors today. Trusting the bounce is a key part of batting here at the Gabba, and not fighting that bounce. So I'll be focusing on that in my training this week. And then again sharpen up towards the back end of the week, and looking at a little bit of footage of last week. Was I in a good position? Did I feel like my game was in a good spot? And I've already done that. Pretty happy with how it looked, and now it's just on to trying to get used to the conditions and looking back on previous notes of how I played here.
So a few for anyone young players listening, you're looking at footage both of the bowlers to sort of get reads and cues from them, and then you're
Yeah.
looking at footage of yourself to sort of self-correct and analyze what you're doing.
Yeah. Basically, I'm just looking at where they were delivering it on the crease, how my my alignment was at setup, at release, and if I'm happy with that, then move on and as I said, try and have a look at some different bowlers. They might have a few changes in their team. Who knows? They might not. So just trying to just cover all bases so you're ready to go.
We're just taking a break from this episode for a minute to tell you about the cricket mentoring community. We're on a mission to build the world's best community of cricketers, coaches, and parents. So no matter where in the world you live or what level you're at right now, the cricket mentoring community can help you. If you're committed to your game and serious about becoming the best cricketer you can be and person you can be off the field, then join cricketers from over 24 countries around the world in the cricket mentoring community. Get access to myself and other CM mentors and experts from around the world as we aim to teach you the 6 pillars of success: technical, tactical, mental, emotional, physical, and lifestyle, so that you can become the best you can be. If this excites you and you're ready to take the next step in your journey, then click on the link in the description below and join the cricket mentoring community now. Yep, and awesome. And you mentioned looking at previous notes from the Gabba. So do you sit down and handwrite, or you take notes on your phone whenever you play? Is it when you do well or when you don't do well, or what are your notes taking? What do your reflections look like?
Yeah, so every game I play, I do a little bit of a preview and I list down their bowlers on my phone, like just on my notes, and where my little different changes on the crease will be. Like, sometimes my back foot's a little bit finer to give me more side on. Sometimes it's right on point to keep me quite open. So, am I in crease? Am I out of crease? So I'll write that down under each bowler.
That for each bowler, right? So you're playing WA and you're facing Lance Morris. You're right. Okay, I'm here, and then you're facing Joel Paris, and I'm here.
Yeah. So especially obviously those two, that different bowlers. Joel's left arm. Really looking for LBW, so I'll be out in my crease to Joel and probably on middle stump, maybe even middle leg. And Lance obviously bowls quite quick, and I'm in my crease and on off. So each bowler I'll write down, where my setup is on the crease. Then after each dismissal, how was I feeling? What was I thinking? Did I react well? Was it the technical issue? Was it just poor execution? So I have a little bit of like a template to look back on. And in previous games, I made 100 here a couple of years, or last year in Shield cricket. So have a look at there. What did I do well? I left the ball really well. Out of my crease worked, and I was able to leave better than normal. I found like my when I was driving, I was only punching the ball, and it really hurt them when they missed short. So just stuff like that to try and I guess get a little bit of a head start for it's not all happening fresh again.
Yeah, brilliant. And something like Chris Rogers, who you spent some time with. Obviously, we did our group back during COVID, and I met you through Bucky. I tell his story a lot, where he faced Stain, Morkel, and Philander in South Africa and got 100, and he had 3 different setups for the 3 different bowlers who were trying to get him out 3 different ways. And I feel like young batters don't understand that it's okay to go, right, to Lance Morris, I'm going to be here, to Joel Paris, I'm going to be here. How are you doing that with the current setup, with Bumrah, Siraj, Rana, these other guys? Are you sort of making a different plan for each bowler?
Yeah, I'm trying to get there. That's the unique thing about Test cricket, and for me personally, who's coming up against it for the first time, I don't have the head start, I guess, knowledge, and I'm learning on the run. So, I felt like getting out LBW twice against Jasper. I felt like he keeps the stumps in play like really well, and he's able to bowl a little bit shorter length and still hit the top of the stumps. So, trying to navigate my way through that. Am I in my crease? Am I out of my crease? Rana's a little bit more steeper bounce, so I can sit back a little bit more to him maybe. And then I guess those bowlers change from how they first bowled to me to how they finished bowling to me. And Rana pitched up quite full at the end of his spell, so just trying to make sure I can review how I went last week, and then trying to I guess adapt and change and get a plan for this week.
Yeah, and it's so much problem solving batting, isn't it? Just sort of working out what's the problem has happened. How do I fix that? But what could happen? Now, how do you, like, something young players struggle a lot with is like playing the man versus the ball, right? So it's Jasprit Bumrah's got you out twice in Perth, and then you go to open the batting under lights in Adelaide, and you're facing him again. Like you say, this is the series cricket where you face the same guys again and again. How do you block out? Okay, it's Bumrah, he's running in. What do you like? How do you really just zone in? And what's your mental process, I guess, as the bowler is running in and then post ball and all of that?
Yeah. I guess that's the real key, from where you play well and then where you don't quite react as well as you like. So, for me, that preparation piece is like really important. So now I'm out in the crease and I can actually just try and react as best I can. And that's why we say our words, in my opinion. So for me, it's just about, getting out there early, marking centre, making sure I have time, And then I take a breath, and then I just say look to score, and I'm really trying to search for the seam. I'm not saying that, I'm saying look to score in my head, but that that intention is me to try and really look hard for the seam. And that kind of, I find, just takes away from any external thoughts. Then post ball, I guess it's just about accepting whatever comes across, your desk, I like to call it, or whatever thoughts come into your mind, just accept them. And that's not got to stop me from focusing on what I want to focus on when the ball's running in, and that is take a breath and look to score and really search for that seam. So we don't always nail it, which is okay also, as long as you can try and just minimise how many balls or probably used to be overs, but trying to just maybe 1 or 2 balls an innings, or 5 or 6 balls an innings that you get wrong, and weren't quite reacting that well. How can you just minimise that and try and be as clear and react as best you possibly can?
So is it the deep breath that sort of brings you back to here and now? You've had your thoughts, you've been reflecting. I talk about 4 R's: reflect, relax, reset, refocus. So is
Yeah,
it the deep breath sort of resets you, and then you refocus on look to score, look to score, look to score sort of
yeah,
thing?
yeah, definitely. Like, I think, when you are a little bit tense and, I become a little bit pushy and, I get out in front. Whereas if I can take a breath and even like wiggle my shoulders or my back elbow is like a physical cue that I can just really relax, as you said. And, I feel like I'm batting my best when I'm in a pretty relaxed state. And, I've only got 1 or 2 words that, are trying to get me to react, whatever they are: watch the ball, look to score. And sometimes it changes. I feel like if you say the same words too much, they get a little bit stale.
Yeah.
So just trying to understand, am I just saying that and there's no real intention behind it? So just try and make sure I can keep the words as fresh as possible and ultimately react as best I can.
Cool. And have you done work with a sports psych or a mental coach or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Along the way, I've done. There's one in South Australia that I see, not all the time, but just check in when I can, even if it's on text, or see him for a coffee, just to reassure what I'm doing is right. Is there any other techniques that I can use to try and, as you said, relax yourself, and anything I can add to my routine to help me react better.
Yeah, cool. And now thoughts, I think the mind is so powerful, and it sort of
Yeah,
dictates how we show up. And so something that I'm interested in is going into that A series where there was Bancroft, Harris, Constas, and you, and it was essentially a bat off. Who's going to get this opening spot? And I think what a lot of people get held back of is not just the fear of failure, but the fear of, like, not the fear, but like the what if I get it? I've got a test spot on the line. So then that becomes something you could lose. How did you deal with going into that? And how do you deal with the thoughts going into big moments so that you can rock up and still be relaxed, still be calm, still trusting yourself, and not get too ahead of yourself?
yeah, yeah. It's definitely easier said than done, but I guess you're human. You got to think about it, and just allowing yourself to think about it, and not getting you know not trying to slap yourself out of it. Just like accept, there's obviously dream come true potentially on the line here. Accept that, what can I do? And that's prepare really well. And then make sure when I'm in the middle, if I react well, my routine, if I do those two things really well, I feel like that's all I can do. And what will be, will be. And often it's easy to say it like that. And you can find yourself, a couple of balls or at training, just mainly focusing on things that you can't really control. But ultimately, if I can look back on, that A series, I almost, if I didn't get picked, I would have been really content with it if I prepared really well and I reacted well in the middle. And I felt like I did that, and it obviously went my way, you know, thankfully. But if it didn't go my way, I was content with how I went about it. And I think the most important thing with those things is just accept that you've got to think about it, because it's what we all really want, and it's not a bad thing if you think about it. It's just how can you quickly shift into what you can do.
I love that saying, that few words there, accept. I think as an athlete, you have to accept that the outcome is ultimately out of our hands. You might go and get 100 and someone else gets a 200, and you've actually
Yeah,
done whatever you can, but the outcome. So accepting. And I love the saying, what will be, will be. Again, that's an acceptance sort of saying, like, what will be is out of my control. I'm going to show up. And so many young athletes, not just cricketers, but young athletes, they're so desperate for the outcome that that just gets in the way of getting their process right. How
Yeah.
what do you do away from cricket? How do you get away from cricket? Because people talk about balance, and I think the best players, the absolute best, and you know Marnus very well. You're getting to know Smithy. I think the very best in anything, they're obsessed,
Yeah.
but you don't want it to consume you. You don't want it to beat you up, and can't sleep at night because you're thinking about things. How do you let your mind get away from cricket, and especially now you're in Test cricket?
Yeah, I think balance is it's definitely not evenly balanced in terms of cricket versus I guess anything else. And as you said, I think it needs to be that way if you want to be the best. Um, but for me, it's I guess I play golf. I feel that's very relaxing for me. It takes my mind off cricket, and I've got another technique that I'm always trying to work on as well, and that's my golf swing. So that gives me a little bit of space. You know, going for a coffee, spending time with my girlfriend, walking the dog on the beach, whatever it is, though, just really try and be present in those times. And, when I'm playing golf, my phone's away. When I'm walking on the beach, my phone's away, just to try and give yourself a little bit of breather. And yeah, I think, as you said, it's never got to be balanced as such, and nor it should be. It's my job, and, at the end of the day, it's the game I love, and, I obviously think about it a lot, but it's important, as you said, to not let it all consume you, which is easier said as well at times.
Yeah, nice. And you spoke a lot. You spoke at the start about going back to people you trust. Who are
Yeah.
those people, and how did they come into your life, and how many people, and etc. I think it's important. I think I run a business based on mentoring and supporting athletes. I think that every athlete doesn't do this alone. They need a few good people around them that they trust. Who are your people?
Yeah, well, one's probably in this team, Marnus, who I was a rookie contracted cricketer in Queensland when I was 19, and he was, just starting to nail his craft and playing for Australia, and he kind of took me under his wing during COVID when there was no travel and we worked hard together. So he's one guy that has seen me bat since, I started playing professional cricket. Stephen Stubbings, our batting coach in South Australia, who's helped get my game from, I guess being a good grade cricketer to then becoming a first class player and struggling at the start of my first class career to then, being able to get a method and play pretty well consistently for South Australia, who's seen me play at my best as well. And then probably Dad, who's been there since the start. So there's three guys there that I, would speak to every week, no doubt. And they all offer different little Marnus is very technical and has got an answer for most, dismissals or theories that I'm thinking about. Stubbo, my batting coach in South Australia, he knows what I do really well and just reassures me. And at times he can, push me in direction. This is what I've seen you do well, and I don't reckon you're quite nailing it at the moment. And then Dad keeps it pretty simple, and it's just a game at the end of the day. You're playing for Australia now, just enjoy it. So yeah, they're three great people, and I'm very lucky to have them in my corner.
So, two folds to this next question is, what has made you a very successful Shield cricketer versus being a good first grade cricketer? What's the gap? And then what is the gap between starting your Test career, nailing a Test spot, and becoming one of the best in the world, where Marnus and Steve and Virat are? What's the next evolution of you as a player? But what has changed?
Yeah.
What did you become from a good grade player?
Yeah, I think it's probably what we spoke about in terms of planning for each bowler and just being have a couple of different methods, and being happy to tinker with my angles on the crease and alignment. You know, in grade cricket, you can often just play pretty well for the first 2 hours of the day as a top order batter. And after lunch, it gets a little bit easier. You play well there for 2 hours, and after tea, they kind of gift you a few runs. Whereas I found in Shield cricket, my first innings, when I was working with Bucky Rogers a lot, I think I faced 175 balls for 30 runs against Tasmania, and it just didn't let up for me. So I guess, from that stage to where I am now in Shield cricket, I'm able to put a bit more pressure on the bowler through, coming out of my crease, or am I sitting deep? I can challenge them on line and length now, whereas previously I probably just had a pull shot, and I couldn't really score through the offside. So I've changed a little bit from then to be able to put them under pressure on line and length. And then the next question to that is probably, hopefully, I'll find an answer soon. But I guess it's all about batting is weird. Like, I feel like you only really believe you're good enough until you get a score, which is funny like that. It took me until I made like a 99 for South Australia, and I think it was in my 8th first class game to really feel like, my game's good enough here. So in Test cricket, hopefully I get that opportunity soon. ASAP would be nice. But it's just the best guys just have that confidence. You see Virat Kohli walk out the bat. He just has a presence. He sticks his chest out, bats out of his crease against our bowlers who are not easy to do. And he's always looking to score. He puts the ball under pressure as soon as they miss. And I think, for any player, if I can go out there, stick my chest out, react really well, as soon as they miss, they know they're getting hurt. I think that's a massive part of batting. And it might look funny at times, and I might be leaving the ball a fair bit, but in my head, I'm always looking to try and put the bowler under pressure. And if I can play the ball, not the man, for a long period of time, I think I can do that in Test cricket also.
Awesome. Now, I just want to touch on the sacrifice you had to go through to leave home, leave Brizzy, start a new life over in Adelaide. Tell us about that period and what was the deciding factor there. I think you won the grade medal up in Brizzy.
Yeah.
And then, you were obviously in the system in Queensland. What was the decision like and the sacrifice you had to make?
Yeah, I think it was a weird time for everyone with being COVID time. So international players didn't travel, and I just didn't see a way in. And Queensland were playing really well. They won the Shield that year also. So my game, I felt like it was good enough. I won the grade medal, and I just wanted an opportunity. And at the time, it feels like a massive move. And South Australia was just struggling at the time. So, but evidently, it's the best thing I've ever done. It took a little bit of, I guess, courage at the time, even though it's nowhere near as big as what it felt. And South Australia have been excellent since. But I just felt like, moving out of home, didn't have dad to throw me balls. In Queensland, I was always the rookie contracted player that didn't want to hit for too long for the batting coach because the big dogs were waiting, and I just didn't want to waste their time. So I used to get a little bit there and then take it back to dad, and I'd get the volume. So just about going down there and almost fitting in a little bit less and understanding that this is what I need, and I feel like I need to be a first class cricketer, and getting the time and the reps in with the coaches, and taking a little bit more ownership in my training. So all of those combinations with living away from home, doing things yourself, I think mentally made me stronger. And yeah, I'm glad it's worked out the way it has.
Well, yeah. Well, full credit to you. Deserve every success for sort of making the sacrifice, putting in the work. But I think you need a bit of selfishness to be great, don't you? Like, you were probably too selfless in Queensland, going, I don't deserve it. You guys do it. But to get
Yeah.
good, to be great, you have to say, right, I need my time. I need to do what's best for me.
Yeah, that's spot on. And Adam Hollyoake, who's another coach I had, throughout playing in Brisbane and for Queensland, and he always said that. And I didn't quite nail it when I was up here, and I felt like I was stepping on, the big dog's toes, and I didn't want to hit too much. And by the time I got a hit, the batting coach was tired because he was always throwing to those guys. So, but looking back on it, as you said, you've got to make sure that it's your career also, and you've got to get what you think you need. And at times you have to be selfish, and you have to make sure that when you leave training, you feel like you're definitely ready to go, and there's no point sitting at home going, oh, I should have done this at training, I should have done that. So it's definitely a learning that I'm continue to probably learn in this space as well. Now I'm in a new environment again, and there's all these guys on TV that I'm now playing with, and it's about understanding what I need to do well, and not getting that.
Yep. Now we're going to have to wrap up shortly. You're off to training in a minute, but take us forward to Saturday. It's the moments before the bell's rung and you walk out to bat with Usman, day one, session one. What are you going through in those moments? Are you ultra nervous? Is there lots of energy running? Do you have a mantra you're saying over and over? You're talking to the boys. How are you in those moments? And then walking out to the middle, what are you like?
Yeah, I try and be pretty relaxed, and then once the toss goes up, it all kind of changes if we're batting, and I make sure I'm ready early, and then my words in my head are just prep's done now. I'm more than ready. All I can do now is nail my routine, and if I do that, I can be content with missing out. Good ball, whatever happens will happen, and I know that I've done all the lead in, all the work. If I react well, I'm in every chance. Um, and that's all. I'm just trying to reiterate, that kind of line of thinking, to go out there and just almost let go and just trust my instincts. And if it doesn't work out, I'll be able to review it and go again. So I try and nail that. No doubt there's plenty of room for improvement, but yeah, hopefully I can react well on Saturday and spend some time out there.
And now, again, another sort of situational thing, but you and Marnus did an incredible job getting through that last session on the first day last week. Did you change, and do you change when it gets around a break? You're thinking, oh, Stumps is in 20 minutes. You're speaking about trying to hurt the bowler score. A lot of people struggle around breaks. I know I did when I was younger. You
Yeah.
start playing for a break and you actually change what you're doing. Is there any thought of the break, or are you just trying to nail your routine? Even if it's the last ball, it's in your zone, you go for it.
Yeah, I think my game in particular. Like when I say look to score, it's probably not Travis Head's look to score. It actually is a really good word for me to be positive, and it might be a leave, but it's the decision and it just helps my movement be quite dynamic. So I'm just always trying to look to score, regardless of the break. It's just trying to be as consistent as I can with that routine. Um, and yeah, at times, like, before stumps, you probably might be trying to drag out a couple of minutes if you can, but it's most importantly when you get back in that crease and the ball's running in, you're in as consistent possible mindset you possibly can. And that's for me, being calm and looking to score. So, um, again, easier said than done, but I think as a batter, the best batters, I feel like, are in a tempo from the start of their innings to the end of their innings, and it doesn't seem like they change. And I think that's where I'm batting my best also.
Yeah, and then final question. You're a leader. You're a up and coming leader. You've captained Australia A. You captained Brisbane Heat to the title last year. What do you think it is about you that makes you a good leader? And I know you're a humble guy. It's hard to sort of boast about yourself or talk about yourself. But what are the traits that are sort of that make you a good leader?
I think the probably first thing is, like, tactically, I love the game of cricket. I watch a lot of cricket. So tactically, I love talking about what we can do here to take a wicket, or interesting what their captain did. So I'm always trying to learn about the tactics of the game and ask questions from our coaching staff to what they reckon. So I think initially, captaining is a lot about tactics, and I think the more you can do it and the more experience you can get, I think it becomes more of a leader. And when you're captaining a state team and you've got 24 guys contracted, it's not just the 11 that are playing. And how can you actually be a leader? And that's something that I've had to work on a lot and do some courses and some education around being a leader. And I think Paddy is unbelievable from my short experience with him. How comfortable he makes you feel personally, being a new guy in a pretty high pressure environment, to instill the calmness and how comfortable he's made me feel in the group is a credit to his leadership. And I think that's something that all good leaders do. And tactical, I guess, is a side of captaining, but also the other side that is plenty of room for growth for me is that leadership side of it. So I think the best leaders are really good at both.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Nath, you got to get yourself ready for training. Go and face the boys indoors today, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
really appreciate your time. As I said at the start, we had these groups during COVID where Bucky got a few of his guys together: Jack Edwards, Josh Philippi, you, John Merlot. Who am I missing? Someone else. Who's that?
Jake Weatherald.
Weathers, of course, Weathers. Yeah. So you guys all spent time up at the academy together under Buck. So that was good. And then we caught up in England last year. So, but mate, it's so pleased to see you doing really well. And I hope you nail this spot. I hope you get runs up in Brisbane in front of your family and your friends up there. And this opening spot becomes yours for a very long time. So yeah, all the best, mate, and appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks, Scholes. Thanks for having me, mate.
Well done. Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our content, then please do me a big favour and subscribe to our channel. The more subscribers we get, the bigger the guests we can get on and continue to help you on your journey of becoming the best you can be.